Happy Friday. Couple of quick issues. Let's talk about can moral and principled academics or civil society leaders use generative AI? Let's also talk about the Colorado AI Act, which after a lot of debate and a committee that proposed changes to make the law more pragmatic, as some would say, or weaker, as others would say. Some of the ideas raised by the committee have been put into a legislative proposal by the senator who's been the champion of that bill, and the legislature has a window to adopt those proposed amendments, and let's talk about that as well. So let's start with what sparked my interest. Emily Tucker, who's the leader of the Georgetown Center on Privacy and Technology. This is a very respected entity at Georgetown. Started with their first director, Alvaro Bedoya, former FTC commissioner. And under him, lots of really interesting work that really, I think, made an impact on facial recognition and surveillance, and how less privileged groups are often the subject of the discrimination. And Emily succeeded, and under her leadership, the center has also done a lot of interesting work. I'm on the advisory board. And although I'm much more of an optimist, maybe naively, but maybe with some merit, on the role that technology and data plays in the world, and although I understand and appreciate the critiques of big tech and power and big government, which I think anybody can recognize, I'm a little more oriented towards how do we work with the leaders who are working at those companies and trying to navigate a reasonable, moral, legal, regulated path forward. But I appreciate the work they do, and happy to be part of the conversation and learn from their work. Emily, who posted an open letter to Georgetown students in reaction to Georgetown University's announcement back in February that the university really was leaning in on generative AI and was making Gemini broadly available to students. And she wrote a letter really taking this on. So first of all, kudos to her for some bravery. She's not a tenured academic. She can be, dismissed at will. There's a lot of academic freedom at universities, but you've got an awful lot more when you've got a very well-established and tenured or academic appointment. And she is more of an at-will employee, and lots of people are not brave enough to risk anything, to speak up, to push back against things that they don't like, government or in power. So a lot of respect for her. But don't fully agree, but I think her perspective is one that is widely held in some swaths of the academic and civil society and communities more broadly. In her letter, she said, students, resist. Don't allow all the problems of AI, which, we all know, but all the problems, the biased inaccuracy, the power, the who created it, the effect on the developing of your own intelligence, all of the critiques, which I think most people in our world, understand. Don't take it. Don't use it. Don't let the university impose it on you. Don't let teachers and academics require that this be part of your education because of all these reasons. I also saw an academic who I have a lot of respect for and just really thoughtful, smart guy, Arvind Narayanan, who is very often skeptical about AI, but a user and also working to advance AI governance and understanding how and when AI is actually effective. Arvin wrote a famous, book, AI Snake Oil, but he's not, a dyed-in-the-wool. This isn't incredibly useful. He believes it is incredibly useful, but with all the caveats. And so he posted on LinkedIn about how he uses AI to help edit or propose edits to his writing, to social media, and how it's sometimes very, very useful, sometimes less. Always needs the human, review, but how he has found it useful. And one academic, international, posted, how is this possible that you're saying something like this? How can you use this, immoral technology? I've been asking people in privacy and compliance, all of whom, are skeptics because it's their job to point out and flag concerns and issues and try to address them. And so, not necessarily people that are ready to ignore the failings, but frankly, many in the corporate side are at companies where they're being pushed to use it, and maybe initially reluctantly, but no longer. As I talk to people at meetings, at conferences, it's not just the tech people that are all in or the students that are looking to shave the shortcuts. I ask people, how are you using this in your personal life? How are you finding it, productive? And I guess the question is it feasible? I mean, look, the early days of social media, we all saw some of the challenges, but you couldn't not be part of that. And there are a range of ways today where you really miss out if you aren't in a WhatsApp group or in a particular social way connected to your friends or your community. When Google became broadly available, there were lots of people certain it was going to really have a negative impact on our knowledge. And there are still people who think, using location services, but who would navigate around an unfamiliar, location now without using Google Maps? I was just in Venice and I had to run around to all kinds of meetings and appointments, and it was navigating me through, alleys. And I'm sure if I had a map and I sketched it out, I probably would have learned, my way around Venice a bit better. But frankly, I wouldn't have just been able to rush off and make it from place to place. I remember sitting with my son when he was doing take-home open book test, and he was just Googling the answers, and wasn't the most effective way to respond when the information was there in his textbook. But it became part of life, and we've all adapted, and it may have had various effects on society, but it also obviously has opened up other doors. So I hear you, Emily. I'm just not sure it's a tenable position to resist AI today, given the incredible areas where it is providing value, whether it's, winning the Nobel Prize for, for research tools, or whether it's a vast number of other areas where people are, coding quicker and more effectively, or just mundane personal productivity. I think that we need to be deeply cognizant of the concerns, but I just don't know that it's feasible to resist something that does have such an upside as well. But I urge you to read her letter. She makes, thoughtful points, and credit her for the intellectual and career bravery. Second thing I wanted to talk about was the Colorado AI Act. As you know, if you've been following, this is sort of the only comprehensive law that passed before a lot of the pushback against AI regulation. And the governor Polish Democrat, was worried that it was too onerous and appointed a committee, and the committee made proposals, and the proposals were now taken, revised, and so forth, and put into a legislative proposal by Senator Rodriguez, the lead sponsor, and I imagine we'll see it pass. So what did it do? I'm looking at the update. I don't think we posted this publicly. Maybe we yet will. That Tatjana Rice, our Senior Director for U.S. Legislation, who's really been our expert on all things AI legislatively in the U.S. And, the initial bill, SB 205, applied to developers and deployers of high-risk AI systems, only high risk. And what was high risk? It was when an AI system is a substantial factor in making a consequential decision. And what was substantial factor? Assist in making and can alter the outcome. So the new proposal, SB 189, is similar, but it is indeed narrower because, first of all, you've got to be processing data, okay, which might not be the case in the earlier version, but it also raises the threshold. So a covered system now is not simply capable of altering the outcome of a consequential decision, where it is a substantial factor. It needs to materially influence such decision. Okay, so that is, I think, less broad a collection of circumstances. The consequential decision previously had to be anything with a material, legal, or similarly significant effect, providing or denying education, employment, financial, government services, healthcare, housing, insurance, or legal. And SB 189 a bit more explicitly covers data-driven pricing. It has a potentially broader scope, actually, because the bill defines consequential decisions as relating to providing or denying these covered domains, as opposed to material, legal, or similarly significant effect. But it does appear to limit the scope of employment automated decisions to solely hiring decisions. Okay. Exempted, a lot of the same exemptions, reorganizes them a little bit. It adds new exemptions, importantly, for things like advertising, academic administration, summarization tools. You don't have AI-enabled video games in here. It does not exclude those. Other pieces of note, where the former bill broadly exempted activities required for legal compliance and investigations, SB 189 narrows this to anti-terrorism and money laundering compliance specifically. And the medical device exemption is only to FDA-regulated devices as opposed to all federally approved and authorized product. HIPAA-covered entities are still excluded, but covered entities have to provide notice and information to patients that are subject to automated decisioning. The previous only required that healthcare providers implement the AI recommendation. Okay, but what are the obligations? They're really now, frankly, just limited transparency obligations. The previous reasonable care to protect consumers from the risks of algorithmic discrimination now is removed. So you don't have the duty of care, you don't have the public disclosures, you don't have the incident reporting. The remaining disclosure requirement is no longer disclosures and documentation. It's now a general statement regarding the automated decisioning's use, limitations, and monitoring. And there is a new data retention requirement for documents that demonstrate your compliance. The deployer requirements are also now more of a limited transparency. The substantive governance requirements that were there before, duty of care, risk management policies, impact assessments, incident reporting, no longer there. The general requirement of disclosures for any consumer-facing AI systems, no longer there. So although you still have these pre-use notice requirements, the amount of info that's got to be disclosed up front has been reduced. Additional details about the system's purpose and the nature of the decision are only required if there is a automated decisioning that provides an adverse outcome. And you only need to inform consumers of their rights under the Colorado Privacy Act when an adverse decision is reached. Interestingly, the California Privacy Act doesn't have that sort of limitation. Let's see. SB 189 also has sections regarding when notices under other laws like FERPA, for instance, might satisfy those requirements. The consumer rights are also narrowed. It has the key rights, but it limits them to instances of adverse decisions, rights of explanation, correction, and appeal, and it ties the correction to the data correction right under the Colorado Privacy Act. The consumer right of appeal is narrowed. It used to be only if technically feasible. Now it's to the extent commercially reasonable, so a little bit narrower. The AG does not have rulemaking around the governance because those have been removed. So now it's really the consumer rights and the transparency. There are fewer safe harbors. Both versions give enforcement authority to the Attorney General, but the new bill has a 60-day right to cure, but not the affirmative defenses that were around before. There's more. Read the text, but just wanted to give a couple of the highlights because this should move quickly. I believe the legislature there only has another week or so. So the first sort of comprehensive law will be a bit narrower. I think that'll be enough to take it off the Department of Justice sort of hit list. The administration, of course, is got a task force focusing on, per the executive order, laws that are considered too onerous. There's a ex-AI lawsuit against the AI Act, and interesting question, but we'll see soon whether the revised version is considered pragmatic and reasonable enough by the folks who are very determined to see legislation not limit the advances of AI, and of course, folks who want to see this legislated at a federal level are eager to have even a more minimal law because of the concerns of the patchwork. That's what's on my mind today. Thank you for joining me, and thoughts welcome, people. Have a great weekend.